Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us once again for Transforming the World Through Reflections. Today, I'm joined by a dear, dear friend, Liuska Rincón, and we go so far back, also from Panama. And we're going to have a great conversation. I can just imagine it already about the way community advocacy is transforming. Liuska is a paralegal who's preparing to become a social worker. And I'm so excited about this because the work that I've seen you do through the years makes it not at all surprising that you are now in the world of social work. So welcome. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Melissa, and thank you for the opportunity to be here today with you.
I can't even begin to tell you how thankful I am to know that you are in this process of joining us in this field of clinical work. We need more of us. Yes. And you bring so much richness to this that I really would love to hear more about what you've been learning, and especially because in light of the pandemic, so much of our work is transforming. So let's explore a little bit. What have you been noticing in this process that we're all going through as we move to post-pandemic growth?
Yes.
What a road.
Yes, for sure. You know, I feel like a lot of us feel like we're going back to normal, but we cannot get back to normal after 2 years that we were in a pandemic. I mean, our mental health is not the same. Our physical health is not the same. Our emotional health is not the same.
Right.
So there's a lot of healing before we can actually come back to where we were. So I think perhaps that's kind of what pushed me to get into the master's program for social work. Because before that, I was doing volunteer work. I had been doing volunteer work with foster youth for about 6 years. So I saw the need. I saw how much of a struggle it was for our foster youth, not so much before the pandemic, but even more during the pandemic.
Even more so.
Even more so. And it was emotionally draining, not just for the youth, but also for me. And I saw it and I felt, I feel like I need to do more. So that's when I decided to apply. And here I am, almost 1 year completed and another year and a half to finish. Yes.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Because the work that you've been doing for years with children and teens, young adults, really sets the tone. It really adds so much to what you're practicing now. You bring a lot of work experience into it. And so I'm curious about during the volunteer times, back in the quarantine, and even when the quarantine was loosening up, what did you notice during your volunteer work? How were you able to do it at that time?
Well, for once, it was different because I was not able to do the in-person visits. It was a lot of, texting or just phone calls. But one thing I had to remember is that initially my visits with the youth were in person. So we got used to that. When we transitioned to not having it in person, it was very challenging, not just for them, but also for me, because now we're trying to communicate a different way. We were not able to connect the same way. I feel that they were not responsive. They were not receptive, to certain things.
Interesting.
So it was a push. We really had to push through to be able to reconnect again the same way that we were before the pandemic. And I noticed their mental health was impacted. They were used to going to school, and now they're not going to school. And school was probably a safe place for some of them.
For some,
they don't
yes.
have that safe place anymore. So there was a lot of exploring and, trying to figure things out while, at the same time trying to be there and be supportive.
Yeah.
So it was challenging.
Challenging indeed. I heard that a lot from a lot of colleagues. What did you find eventually felt useful to reconnect, to really solidify the reconnection with these youngsters in a time when, not being able to meet in person got in the way of feeling the bond?
Yeah. I'm going to have to say consistency. It's like if I told them we were going to talk at 7 o'clock p.m. on a Tuesday night, I was there to talk to them at 7 p.m. on a Tuesday night. And just keeping that a promise, for them to continue trusting me. Because I feel that if I did not do that, once that promise is broken, that trust is broken, and again, the reconnection, it takes much longer.
Much longer.
Yeah. So
much longer. What a key word, trust.
Yes.
Trust, because so many of the issues that they brought into life in foster care definitely are connected to broken trust. And so to have developed a bond with you before the pandemic, and now, finding this pandemic to be a thing that could possibly separate you from them, I'm going to assume that it was scary for many. Like, where is this going? Are we going to see each other again? Can I count on her anymore? And to see your consistency in a way, and it's, I recognize, easier said by me than them, because I'm looking at it from the outside. In a way, the pandemic gifted them the opportunity to see that when somebody says that they're going to be there, they're going to be there. So, one of those things that, as horrible as the pandemic has been, it's been packed with gifts. So you gifted them something really precious.
Yeah, and you have to understand that a lot of this youth, these kids, these children, have never really had someone they can count on.
Right.
Never had someone they could go to and trust. So that's part of the reason why I made sure that I was consistent. And always tell them, if you ever need anything, call me. If you ever in need or anything, just call me. Because it's part of the support. It's part of the advocacy that I've been doing. Just being there for them. And if I need to speak for them, I'll speak for them too. So.
Did you notice anything transform in your relationship with them once they could see that this is someone that, wow, even in this situation, I can trust her? What happened in your relationship with them once they realized that, yes, Liuska, she's down. She's down.
It's as sad as this may sound. I actually had someone come to me having suicidal thoughts. And that to me was something that I had never experienced before, but she felt comfortable enough to come to me and share those thoughts and those feelings. And at that point, we have to do something for you. So I was able to, connect her to her therapist and her social worker so that we can, do something for her.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think that's probably the most impactful thing that I have experienced when it comes to trust from a foster youth.
That speaks volumes of how free to be themselves this young person was in your presence, to feel free to say this to you, that they knew you would listen. That's huge.
Listen and do something.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, that says so much about how trust was cultivated in those times.
For sure. For sure.
Of quarantine. That's powerful work.
Yeah, and it's been a while. It took time for me to get to where I am today.
Yes.
And I have to say that I kind of grew up in an environment where it was a given environment. So perhaps doing this now has not been as hard because it naturally comes out for me to be there for others and be generous with my time, my heart, you know. So it has been a journey, but a journey that I have definitely enjoyed.
Enjoyed it. It lines right up with the giving person that you are. So not surprising at all. I'm curious about how it impacted you to notice those transforming relationships between yourself and the young people you were supporting through this horrible experience.
I think you brought awareness within me of just certain things that maybe I had suppressed or had not really explored within me. So I think having the opportunity to kind of go through the process with the youth, growth and learning about each other and be supportive.
Yeah.
It has been a process, but at the same time, it has been something that I am definitely proud of what it has done for me, because it's made me a better person.
Oh, beautiful.
A better person.
Beautiful. Yeah. As difficult as this has been worldwide, many people are like you, sharing about how they've been growing through the process. Unfortunately, not many people feel that they have a safe environment to do all that exploring that you were sharing. You know, do the kind of exploring that helps us to grow. Have the supportive resources that really give a sense of I'm contained in this exploration process. You provided, and still do, this safe container for these young people to do all this exploring. And you yourself had a safe container to do your own exploring. What are you learning now that you're in this social work program about what's needed for someone to feel safe in exploring what may be scary stuff, painful stuff? What are you discovering in this program?
First of all, we have to be inclusive. We have to not, this program is very strong on being anti-racist, anti-oppression. So part of that, and a big part of that, is being aware of that we're not all the same, but at the same time, respect those people who are not the same, and give yourself, as a social worker, the opportunity to learn about them. Do not shut yourself down or make yourself unavailable to that learning and that growth. So just, I feel that what I've been learning in the past year is just becoming more aware of the different cultures that we are surrounded by, and when I mean cultures, I mean any, I don't mean traditional or religious. I mean, ableism. There is people,
right,
able-bodied people.
Yes.
So it has been a process,
yes,
of learning about
yes.
different cultures, and what structure I had as for the years that I've been here is knowing that culture is not just tradition.
Right.
It's different groups of people that have built their own community and their own culture.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
yeah.
And I'm really thankful that you bring this up, because as you and I even privately have talked about, and you hear it a lot, not only in the media but otherwise, the pandemic really promoted more reflection and action related to social justice. Mm-hmm. And so to hear you talk about the importance of inclusion really made me think about that. And that you would happen to choose going into this program in the middle of, what the world is experiencing right now, which is an eye-opening journey about social justice issues that have been around for generations. Mm-hmm. So what are your thoughts on that? What's happening now and how it lines up with the work that you're doing?
I am pleased to know that there are programs out there to support that and to build that type of community, and also bring awareness, because as a social worker, that's something that you would be doing to serve. You'll be educating people to some degree.
Yes.
So I am pleased to know that we're awakening, I guess.
Awakening. Yes, the world is awakening.
Yes.
And we need more people like you, trained in all of these aspects of healing in the context of social justice, to really support the world in waking up and feeling that they are doing so in a safe container. So speaking of safe containers, how do we go about reaching out to people in communities who, for very good reasons, have not allowed clinical support to be part of their life experience? Especially now that we want to help the world wake up and move through the growing pains of healing?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Melissa, because I think it has been a generational struggle that now us trying to do something about it is going to probably take generations for us to be able to connect and in that on that level.
Yes.
So I guess my own personal and humble opinion on this is start small, start with social workers going into communities, homes, perhaps even schools, try to educate people, and maybe if needed in a school, change the curriculum, of how they read history, or how they are educated about history.
Yes.
And start small.
Start small.
Start small.
Those are all really great interventions.
Yeah.
And when you mentioned curriculum, you definitely hit the nail on the head, given that so much of what's causing a lot of the pain worldwide is the very intentional removal of key pieces of information because that way, the system remains what it is, systemic oppression. If we don't put it in the books, they're not going to know about it, and things remain the same in favor of the privileged. So thank you for mentioning curriculum. Now, here's the thing. Because it's been very convenient to have the curriculum be what it is, there's going to be resistance. Just like there's going to be and has been resistance in other areas where social justice is trying to, what's the word I want to use? Create enlightenment. So how do we equip ourselves to engage when there's resistance? How do we help ourselves have the energy we need when we're met with resistance?
So one of the things I've learned or have been learning that anytime there is resistance, we have to look deeper into why that resistance is coming from. Mm-hmm. So in this case, we have to think, okay, this is how they have been brought up. They have, all their lives. This is how they've thought. This is just. Mm-hmm. So it's just allowing ourselves to understand that first. And little by little, like baby steps, share how what the history they have lived has hurt us and has also impacted the way they will live.
Yeah.
And see if maybe that way they'll somewhat meet us in the middle. I mean, yeah. You're asking a very good question, and I'm trying to brainstorm as to how we can do that. But, based on what I have been learning is a lot of, when it comes to someone resistant to do something, is because of something in the past is causing that resistance.
Yes.
Something that's happened to them.
Yes.
So we have to figure out what it is to be able to address it and then share how it's making us feel.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Something that I've been learning when I observe other people doing this work, and also when I consult with mentors, is we really need to up-level our listening, because we too, members of the oppressed communities, can display resistance, just like members of the oppressing community display resistance, because like you were saying, we've been living in a certain way for so long. Doing something new is not necessarily appealing. And so doing a lot of listening, and that reminds me of what you were saying earlier about how you found yourself exploring more and more about yourself. So doing more listening to yourself. So, yeah, may the listening increase for all of us.
For sure. Yeah. And I think we have to be patient in that process too. I think it's not that we have not been patient. Let me just be clear. I think we have been.
Yeah.
But it's something that has been happening, and it's not just gonna magically, resolve itself.
Right.
It takes a process.
Yeah.
So I think we, as a community, together, we have to be patient in the process and continue to do the work,
Continue to do the work. Continue to do the work. That requires so much commitment. So much commitment. Have you found in your work with youth that because it involves community, a community of different professionals in service of the youth. Have you found it helpful to include, for example, people outside of that circle of professionals that are in, for example, that foster agency or other organization? Has it been helpful to bring in other folks that the youth can really connect with so that it would move their process of healing forward?
Yeah, I think when it comes to foster youth, the more resources we're able to provide to them, the better. Normally a foster youth will have a social worker, a therapist, perhaps a case manager. But if you were to bring in volunteers, which is how it started, and these volunteers implement some sort of life skill training for them, or financial skills, how to budget your money as you get older.
Yes.
I think all of those resources are important for the youth.
Yes.
Especially because at some point they're going to transition out of foster youth and they're going to need those skills. So yes, I do think that it's good to incorporate services outside of what's already being provided to them. So you could even explore that with the youth, like what would you like, what do you feel you need? So
that they are active in that process of advocacy for themselves. Beautiful. Beautiful. I was asking because when I read about certain clinicians that have been doing things that are innovative, or maybe not necessarily innovative, but that really honor, like you said, cultural traditions, so that the clinical work really takes into account cultural healing traditions, as opposed to just having this cookie cutter approach to the work. What I'm finding more and more, and I'm so thankful to see and hear this, is incorporating people from the community who are not clinicians, but that perhaps have a special standing in the community that the client belongs to, so that it really informs the healing process. And so knowing about the organizations that you've been involved with, it sounded like, they do something similar, as opposed to only the therapist, the social worker, the psychiatrist, right?
Right.
So that more members of the community that this youth can look to are part of an interdisciplinary, approach.
Yeah. And I think it also gives them an opportunity to also start building their own community.
Yes.
Yes. This may be a mentor later on in life, or, so I think by connecting them to those resources and being them for them, if they ever, need anything else, then I think it's important. It's important.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say.
And isn't it interesting how for many, and you've been doing this for so many years, you probably have a lot of stories on it, but then they become mentors one day.
It's funny that you mentioned that, Melissa, because during the time that I've been mentoring and volunteering, they all want to be social workers. They all want to be psychologists. They all want to be therapists, because they want to be able to advocate for those that come behind, after them.
Yes.
Yes. I'm in the process of mentoring. Actually, I'm mentoring this particular young lady who happens to have made some not so good choices. and is now, incarcerated. And one of the things she mentioned that she wants to do while she's incarcerated, and even after she is released, is to create a nonprofit. A nonprofit that is going to be able to support people who have gone through the same crimes that she went through, but she's thinking of, I'm going to be there to give them support and tell them what not to do and what to do, kind of give them some direction. And I see this a lot. You find you find a youth who has been through so much trauma and abuse and neglect that all they really want to do is come and help somebody else because they don't want somebody else to go through the same pain that they've been going through. So, yeah, it's something.
It's so amazing, and it speaks of how they've been touched by people who, like you, have been there to keep nourishing, a healing relationship. And so they want to pay it forward.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I've seen that happen too, and it's so heartening. And we need more of that.
Yeah.
You were talking earlier about, the world waking up. And this is the kind of thing that helps the world wake up to all these social injustices. As we heal, we support somebody else's healing process. And that is essential to the healing of generations. I agree with you. It's going to take several generations to address the suffering from past generations. Thankfully, the work is moving forward.
For sure.
It's moving forward. And the youth that you're supporting will for sure be a part of it. And the thing is, even if we are not in the presence of someone that now wants to be a therapist or a social worker, just the fact that healing is in progress, anyone that they interact with will benefit from the person they're becoming. And that's healing too. It has a rippling effect.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and I'm so thankful that we get to witness that and also experience it for ourselves. And this is my way of asking more about your own experience of healing, because, to be in this work means that we inevitably are going to be faced with our stuff and have opportunities to continue healing it.
Yes. I have to say, it has been a journey, quite a journey, because, you get to be a certain age that you don't want to deal with certain things. You already, you've lived all your life with this. Why do you need to fix it, But sometimes if you want to be that better person that you've always wanted to be, you have to go through the pain. You have to go through the healing. It's just no other way. There's just no other way. And for me, I have to say that it has helped me be more patient, more understanding. And not that I wasn't understanding, Melissa, but it's just at a whole different level of wanting to put myself in that position or that pain that person is going through to be able to understand them.
Yes.
And it's just, it also gives me a different perspective of how to better serve this person, or perhaps even how to better support them. Because every person is different. Every person has gone through their own pains and suffering and or joy. And sometimes we as humans forget that we all go through different things.
We do.
And we feel that because perhaps we went through one thing and we healed, that other person has to go through the same process because we were able to heal. Mm-hmm. But no, it doesn't work that way. We all have our own healing journey to do. So it's and it continues to be. I feel like I'm still working.
Yeah, it's like a lifelong process.
Yes,
it's a lifelong process, and it really is not about how much mileage you have in this work. Mm-hmm. There is always an opportunity to add more healing to something, or to discover something that was not necessarily conscious. So if we're supporting someone in becoming more conscious of certain things so that they can respond to those things in new ways, we got to do the work.
Yeah.
And we can't even avoid it. This kind of work really makes it so that you cannot run. I mean, no, you can run, but you cannot hide. You can't.
Yeah.
So to just welcome the opportunity for discovery in a spirit of self-kindness. Mm-hmm. And not only because it benefits our relationship with ourselves, it also benefits our relationships with the people we work to support their healing journeys and other people in our lives. Mm-hmm. So, I'm really thankful for those perks.
And, I'm going to piggyback a little bit off of what you're saying is that we have to do the work because in order for us to do what we do, we have to be honest.
Yes.
To ourselves and to those that we serve. Mm-hmm. And if we're not, believe it or not, they will know.
They will.
And that right there destroys any type of trust, rapport, or any type of relationship you're trying to build.
Absolutely.
So,
oh my goodness. Yes.
Honesty.
Authenticity first. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Whether it's a child, a teen, an adult, it does not matter. Mm-hmm. People will know.
Yep. Yeah. People
will know. And back to what you shared earlier regarding trust building. Mm-hmm. It's going to be delayed.
Yeah.
If we don't bring the real into the room. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And trust is like water for soup. Without it, forget it.
Yeah.
We're not going to do anything here.
No.
Yeah.
You're totally correct. Yeah.
So, wow. This is amazing work. This is amazing work. I'm so glad to hear. When you shared with me that you jumped into social work, I was so happy to hear this.
Oh, thank you.
Because you bring so much love and care and generosity and just this willingness to see someone grow. Mm-hmm. That's just the Liuska that I know. So to hear that you are engaging in it in a professional way also. Yes.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you. Yeah, and to be honest, I feel like I've been a social worker for many years.
Right?
Now I'm just making it official. I guess.
Exactly.
But,
exactly.
And getting the training, the proper training, educational training, I should say, to be able to better support.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad for it because, here it is. We are supporting someone in tapping into their wisdom, discovering what their gifts are so they can amplify them. Mm-hmm. And so it's only fitting that we too are amplifying our gifts. So unofficially, you've been doing this work all this time. You bring that gift to the world. So now you're making it official with this professional training. You know, it is Liuska-ness. I just made up that word. You know,
Thank you.
so
Thank you.
So good. So good.
Thank you so much, Millie. Yeah. And I think, I'm hopeful that I'll be able to continue to give the same way. Because, one thing is you as a volunteer.
Yeah.
And another thing is you as a professional.
True.
So I'm hoping that I'm able to connect those two and still be there for those in need. For sure. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Well, I thank you so much for taking this opportunity to chat with me and reflect together on this work. And hopefully we've invited our listeners to reflect more on how powerful it can be to be so engaged with our own healing that we can be present to invite others into healing.
Yeah.
As the African proverb says, it takes a village.
It takes a village.
It takes a village. Well, thank you, Liuska.
No, thank you, Melissa. I really enjoyed this conversation of reflection. So thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. And may we continue transforming the world with reflections.